But as I deliberated over this case, my verdict is probably not going to be what the prosecution and plaintiffs want to hear. So before we adjourn, sit back down. I want to share a few things with you. Yes, Jesus has broken the law. He has broken the law, and we know that law and order is important to you guys. He's broken the law regarding the rituals from the Old Testament. But when we did some research, we found a quote from Jesus in the Gospel according to Mark the 7th chapter, taken from the Message translation. And there we find these words. It says, Isaiah was right about frauds like you. He hit the bullseye, in fact. There are people, these people, who make a big show of saying the right thing, but your heart isn't in it. And they act like they're worshiping me, but they don't mean it. They use me as a cover for teaching whatever suits their fancy, ditching God's command and taking up the latest fads. We did more research about the things that you brought forward. You made claims that Jesus and his followers ate with dirty hands. And we know for you this is very important, that the law has to be followed to the T. But Jesus, yet again, in another interview in the Gospel according to St. Matthew, the 15th chapter, was found correct when he said this. Listen and try to understand. What goes into a person's mouth does not make them unclean. It's what comes out of their mouth that makes them unclean. Don't you know that whatever goes into your mouth, and this is paraphrased from the New Living Translation of the 15th chapter of the Gospel according to St. Mark, don't you know that whatever goes into the stomach, goes into the mouth, then goes into the stomach, then comes out of the stomach into the toilet, but whatever goes out of the mouth comes from within. That is what makes a person unclean. The evil thoughts, murder, adultery, other sexual sins, stealing and lying and cursing, those are the things that come from within. Those are the things that make a person unclean. But eating without washing your hands doesn't make a person unclean. That's right. And you went on to say, and more research was done as we were deliberating, that Jesus doesn't follow the rules of fasting. And we know because the law and order is very important to you, and following all the rules of the church and the temple are very important. But we found out that you fast for the wrong reasons. And we went back and did some research in Isaiah, the 58th chapter. The great prophet Isaiah went on to say this, that I think has a way of undergirding what we say. Don't you see that on the days you fast, you do what you want to do? You mistreat your workers. Don't you see when you fast, you still fight and quarrel and beat your workers? The way you fast today keeps you from being heard in heaven. Isn't it evident in the way that in the kind of fasting that I've chosen? Should people humble themselves only for a day? Is fasting just a bowing of your head like a cattail and making your bed from sackcloth and ashes? Is this what you call fasting? Is this your acceptable day of the Lord? This is the kind of fasting that you have chosen. But no, Isaiah says, loosen the chains of wickedness, untie the straps of your yoke. Let the oppressed go free, break every yoke, share food with the hungry, take the poor and homeless into the houses and cover them with clothes. When you see them naked, don't refuse to help your relatives. Then your light will break through like the dawn. One more thing. You speak of keeping the traditions. We know that the traditions are important to you. You are scholars of the law and the prophets. You make sure that you go to church. But you don't go to church to worship. You have made the faith community just another social club, just to get my stamp of approval. But God, the Honorable G.O.D. is saying, I'm not pleased. Let me recall what Amos shared from the Word. I can't stand your religious meetings. This is paraphrased from the Message Bible. I'm fed up with your conferences and your conventions. I want nothing to do with your religion projects, your pretentious slogans and goals. I'm sick of your fundraising schemes. I'm tired of your public relations and image making. I've had all I can of your noisy egomaniac music. When was the last time you sang to me? Do you know what I want? I want justice, oceans of it. I want fairness, rivers of it. That's what I want. That's all I've wanted. I just wanted to point out today that there's plenty of what you said that Jesus has done which is wrong. But I've looked at the record, and the truth is it is very clear that Jesus has done much right over the past 3 years. And the first thing I want to point out is he doesn't deny that he exorcised demons from Legion. You remember the former crazy man with the issues living in the cemetery, who now goes around preaching about how Jesus changed his life, much like the people here today. It is unfortunate that the pig trade was interrupted, but I'm more concerned about how you seem to care more about unclean animals than you do about the soul of a man. What's wrong with this picture? How is it that people who say they know me, G-O-D, the Honorable G-O-D, or God, be okay with leaving a man homeless and helpless while worrying about unclean pigs? It's a problem when we care more about whether or not we've dotted every I and crossed every T and followed every rule than we are about the souls of people. I like the fact that Jesus has spoken or fed thousands of people. There's an account of Jesus multiplying a young boy's lunch to feed a multitude. And word has gotten back to me that you guys were even angry about that. I guess you would be more comfortable with people being hungry than you would of giving of yourself. I know it probably was out of order, but it was in God's will. Word has gotten out that some of you are even upset about some of his closest friends being outcasts. But at least they aren't fakes and phonies. And they're not trying to act like they've never done anything. And you might benefit from taking a lesson from some of those tax collectors and prostitutes who are now following Jesus. Experience is when you have been forgiven for much, you can love much. But perhaps since you've never done anything wrong, that's why you can look down on other people. That's right. I'm almost done. Yes, indeed, he has healed the sick. There are testimonies of blind eyes being opened. There are testimonies of folk who once could not hear, who now can hear. There's testimonies of persons like Mr. Paralyzed, who can now walk. His life will never be the same again. And you want me to believe that it is a bad thing that Jesus healed him on the wrong day? Just imagine if you were like that woman who had been bleeding for 12 years. And God showed up after you had spent all, or Jesus had showed up after you spent all of your money on doctor's visits. And finally you got word that Jesus was in Richmond and he was right around the corner from where you were. How would you feel if you've gotten to Jesus after bleeding for 12 years and he said to you, you're dirty, go take a bath and then come back to me? Think about not being able to walk. Would you feel some kind of way if Jesus would have said to you, sorry, today is Sunday, I can't heal you because it's against the rules? What if you were the man with the withered hand? What if you were the man, or would you want him to stay bound just so the religious leaders would be comfortable in their situation? What if you were guilty of committing sins and Jesus says, I don't care if you were sorry or not, there is no grace, there is no mercy, you messed up and you're going to hell? Doesn't it sound crazy? You are so upset that you declared your sins forgiven. You are so in such an uproar because you say that only God can save, that only God can forgive sins. Maybe you just missed a few classes on the Torah. Do you remember that I promised to send a Savior? He would come in my name. He would be the Lion of the tribe of Judah. His name would be Wonderful, would be Counselor, Prince of Peace. He would be a ruler. If you really knew me like you think you knew me, then you would have known that I'm working in and through him. If you would have really listened to him, Jesus says several times that Jesus and my Father are one. Jesus is my son, and he speaks on my behalf. He has all authority in heaven and on earth, just like the prophecy said. I'm closing, but here today, I don't know even if you are aware, but all of this is a part of the ultimate plan. And you are helping to make the prophecy come true. I declare that Jesus would be despised and rejected. You have done both. That he would be acquainted with grief. You have done that too. That he would be mocked. You have done that. And so I want you to stand. I want you to stand while I talk to my son. Jesus, I'm dismissing this case with prejudice. And I want you to know that you understand my heart. That you know I care less about rules and more about relationships. And so my son, I want you to keep on doing what you're doing. If you leave this course today and see a person in need of help, don't be afraid to help them. I want you to know that there are thousands and hundreds of thousands and millions of people who are watching your every word. If you see or listening to your every word, if you see someone who is addicted to sin, you have my permission to set them free. And don't stop hanging out with the least of these. Never let what these religious leaders say or distort my desires. And Jesus, let me encourage you, because I have a feeling that things are not going to be easy for you in the days ahead. We've already talked about what will happen there, and I need you to be strong. Some people are going to be with you now, but they're going to turn on you, and they're going to reject you, and that rejection is going to hurt. People are going to lie on you, but I want you to keep your head up. You would call a blasphemer, but trust, you are my son, and I am well pleased with you. And the next time that you come to court, they're going to make sure that another judge hears your case. But you know the deal. Stick to the plan. Never say a mumbling word. Don't fight back with your fist. Your silence will speak volumes. They will end up thinking that they win. But I've got plans that will change the course of history. It's going to be enough to raise the dead. Court is adjourned.